right, good evening. I'm Tony Duvall. I'm the Chief of Police here in the city of Takoma Park, and welcome to our Ward 1 Public Safety meeting. As you know, we've had these ward-specific meetings in several of our wards. We felt it was very important that we come to you all specific about crime and public safety in your neighborhood. So before we get into what we're going to do is we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation just overviewing stats across the entire city, but more specifically here in Ward 1. And then we'll get into some Q&A at the end. This is a virtual meeting, so we have people online. So we ask if you have to ask a question, we're going to hand you a mic so you actually can be heard by the people at home, and we're also going to take questions from people at home. So before we get into the PowerPoint, I just want to introduce staff from the police department and the city who are here. To my immediate left, all the way over, is our public information officer, Kathy Plevy. Many of you get information from her and know her. We also have our investigative services commander, Joseph Butler, who's filling in as our crime analyst this evening and will be giving the presentation. In the front row here, we have our Ward 1 council person, Shayna Fulcher. Welcome to her. Directly behind her is Ron Hardy. Gave him way less than he should have. So Ron is retiring after spending many, many years with the city. So he's our emergency preparedness manager.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Those of you who didn't hear at home, we had a resident congratulate Ron. Ron has been a tremendous asset to the city. I mean, he's going to be hard shoes to fill. And also to my right is Captain Post. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Butler, who's going to provide a PowerPoint presentation of crime stats, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Yes, again, Lieutenant Butler, Takoma Park Police Department. This is the community meeting for Ward 1, Thursday, June 11th, 2024. Takoma Park Police Department Part 1 crimes in 2023. The crime overview with a concentration on Ward 1 in 2023. Top 5 repeated locations in Ward 1 in 2023. The map of Ward 1 incidents in 2023. Assaults in Ward 1. Also the property crimes overview. Next, we're going to talk about the Takoma Park Police Department Part 1 crimes, comparison year 2022 versus year 2023. Homicide at 0, rape, 0, robbery. You can see it in the, you can see it in the blue, 2022 was lower than 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Because we only have like the,
Yeah, I think probably the best thing to do, let's improvise here, is try to give a summation of anything that's related to a chart. Probably is not beneficial for them. I think just giving overall numbers. So for example, for Ward 1, what the percentage of, if you look at page number 3, you can go into the Ward 1 comparison, like the number, what Part 1 incidents are, the number of incidents that occurred in Ward 1 in 2022 compared to the number of incidents that occurred in 2023. So let's try to, as we're going through the presentation, just factor in that they don't have the paperwork and just try to be as informational as possible as far as the crimes that occurred in Ward 1.
yes, compared to 2022 and 2023, the whole city. Overall statistics, 50% increase in total Part 1 crimes from 2022 to 2023. Throughout the whole city, there were 716 total Part 1 crimes in 2022 versus 1,073 total Part 1 crimes in 2023.
Yeah, Lieutenant Butler, can we slow it down and just, so when we're talking about Part 1 crimes, can you explain what those crimes are? And explain what compared to what Part 2 crimes?
Part 1 crimes, talking about, it could be burglary, robbery, homicide, rapes. Those are, and also thefts amount of a certain level. That's a Part 1 crime.
Is it also a felony?
Yes, yes.
Can we, I just want to keep in mind, and I apologize for the technical difficulties, but if we're going to ask questions in the room because we have people joining, can we pass a mic around to you? Because that might be the easiest thing to do. And I think as we get a PowerPoint paper portion, it'll be easier to follow. But if you have a question, we have a mic in the room that we can provide to you. That way the people at home can hear you as well. So I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, sir? Right, Ron is right behind you with the mic.
She questions.
I asked what,
the-
I asked what part one crimes were, and then you gave that, and then you, listened to my left, said, are those
You gotta put the mic,
felonies?
you gotta put the mic onto your mouth.
Are those felonies? And you answered yes.
You need to repeat the question too, as well.
I did.
This is going to be really difficult to do. So I suggest that we wait until you have the PowerPoint in front of you. Ron, you have a gentleman with his hand up. Can you please give him the mic?
I'm just going to go to a different question because
Yeah, I think that would be, why don't we do this? Why don't we pivot? Why don't we go to the crime stats at the end? Because we just do not have, it's going to be too hard to follow. So why don't we put this on hold? We normally do this at the beginning. Let's begin with questions that we have from the audience and questions that we have online, and then we'll come back to this PowerPoint and people can follow along, because this is just going to be impossible to do it.
I'm Roger from Baltimore Avenue.
Welcome.
Visualize, if you would, a crash at the intersection of Piney Branch and Eastern Takoma. Why does not the police department move the traffic along state highways that are designed to handle that? What happens is, if they're coming out of the district or heading toward the district, they will make if they're coming out of the district, they'll make a left-hand turn onto what is Takoma/Eastern.
Say this, that intersection is obviously, like many intersections in the city, it's a shared intersection between the District of Columbia and the city of Takoma Park. I will say with traffic accidents, all of them are unique. So we can't come up with a plan for every incident. Some traffic collisions just block one portion of the intersection, some block the entire portion of the intersection. When we respond to a vehicle collision anywhere in the city, our first priority is to preserve the safety of that scene, because we have to ensure that anyone that may be injured or involved in that accident is safe. That's the first priority. Unfortunately, that sometimes results in maneuvering traffic through adjoining neighborhoods or so on and so forth. It's not as simplistic as I wish it could be, that we came up with a traffic plan for certain intersections. It's just not, because every collision is unique. I will say we try to expedite as soon as we possibly can safely in clearing intersections. A lot of times intersections are more complicated when they involve two jurisdictions for multiple reasons, notifications and so on and so forth. We do not make it a habit to try to route traffic where it's going to cause more issues. But to be candid, sometimes it's impossible in that situation. You're either going to route traffic over to your neighborhood on Baltimore, or we're going to route it over to Cedar or Holly. It's almost impossible sometimes to safely, without shutting the intersection down, route traffic through there. I don't know if that answered your question sufficiently, but
It's an answer, it's not one that I can handle. From a pre-planning standpoint,
I'm sorry, sir, can you just take the mic so the people can help get in?
from a pre-planning standpoint, yeah, you can't have a specific.
If at all possible and safely able to do so, we will route traffic on main roadways. The only time we won't is when it's not safe to do so.
Okay, let me I'll finish this.
Two, or were on the scene, or when you say one car came out, were there already officers on the scene?
Your officers.
So was it the District of Columbia? I'm confused. Was it the District of Columbia that was handling the access system? Is that what the situation was? Or that intersection, the majority of that intersection is the District of Columbia. They would respond to accidents there. So it sounds like we responded out to assist them. I feel your pain. I understand. We do whatever we can to expedite traffic. We do not, it's not the first alternative. We have any others to route them through neighborhoods. It's just not. I agree with all the things you said as far as safety concern.
I think we're just asking for a height aware.
And obviously, that is frustrating for many. It's not unique to the city of Takoma Park. The same thing happens in my neighborhood. I think if we're having chronic problems, we need to know about it, because we can reach out to the companies in general. So if you have information, please let us know, and we can reach out collectively. We did with one particular company because they were just chronic in having, it seemed like everywhere in the city, one of their devices was put in a place that was blocking someone. If at any point you feel there's a safety hazard and it's blocking your driveway, you can contact us as well. We'd be more than happy to come out and move it and then address that issue with the particular company. So yeah, we can assist in that manner. So like if it's on a grassy area, I wouldn't say call us, but if it's blocking a driveway, sidewalk, et cetera, you can give us a call and we can move it in or address that with the particular company.
Your dispatcher is, and your dispatcher.
If you call in and you say that there is a bike, scooter blocking the roadway, our dispatchers will send someone out. We have the PowerPoint with us. For the sake of time, why don't we transition? Does everyone have a copy of the PowerPoint? Sorry, I apologize for those at home, but we're going to circle back to the PowerPoint, and then because that may cause some questions in the room, and then we will go back to questions for the remainder of the evening.
All right, the Tacoma Park Police Department's Part 1 crimes in 2023. The crime overview with a concentration on Ward 1 in 2023. Top 5 repeated locations in Ward 1 in 2023. Map of Ward 1 incidents of 2023. Assaults in Ward 1, property crimes overview. Go to the next slide. This is the comparison in year of 2022 versus year of 2023. The 2022 will be in blue, 2023 will be in like a burnt orange color. First of homicide, second of rape, third of robbery, fourth of assault, burglary, larceny, theft from auto theft, and that's a total. Being shared on the. Oh, it's not being shared?
I'm sorry, Lieutenant Butler. I'm having a hard time following, so I'm sure they probably are. What page are we on? Can we just tell people as we go? Yeah, just okay. Okay.
Can you read across the bottom again, because it's faded out in our copies? So it's murder, rape.
Yes, ma'am, on the bottom of the page, from left to right, first is homicide, second is rape, third is robbery, fourth is assault, fifth is burglary, sixth is larceny, then theft from auto, then the auto theft, and the last will be the total from 2022 to 2020.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Next will be the Takoma Park Police Department year 2023 overview from 2022 to 2023, the whole city. Overall statistics, 50% increase in total Part 1 crimes from 2022 to 2023 throughout the whole city. 716 total Part 1 crimes in 2022 versus 1,073 total Part 1 crimes in 2023. Part 1 crimes with a decrease. Homicide, 2 versus 0, 100% decrease. Rape, 3 versus 2, 33.33 decrease. Part 1 crimes with an increase. Robbery, 24 versus 60, 150% increase. Assault.
Excuse me, what page do you want on?
Page 2.
Sorry, back to 2.
Yeah, I think it's easy, it's just as we transition from page to page for the people in the room, if we can just say page 2, top of page, 'cause that way people can follow.
Go over it again on Part 1 crimes with an increase. Robbery, 24 versus 60, 150% increase. Assault, 55 versus 88, 60% increase. Burglary, 90 versus 95, 5.55 increase. Larceny, 321 versus 543, 69% increase. Theft from auto, 168 versus 202, a 20% increase. Auto theft, 53 versus 83, 56.6% increase. Next, we're going to be talking about the Takoma Park Police Department year 2023. The overview, 2022 versus 2023 wards. Ward 6 is in the majority with 52% of the crime, 554 incidents in 2023. Ward 1 accounted for 6% of crimes in 2023 with 66 incidents. Ward decreases. There was a decrease in Ward 3 with a negative 19% compared to 2022. Ward increases. There were increases within Ward 1, plus 12%, Ward 2, plus 54%, Ward 4, plus 39%, Ward 5, plus 89%, and Ward 6, plus 79% compared to 2022. Now we're going to go to, should be a pie graph. And in the top part, it says Takoma Park PD wards comparison year 2023. The 52% is going to be Ward 6. The blue is going to be Ward 1. The burnt orange is going to be 23% for Ward 2. Ward 3 is 9%, and Ward 6 is going to be 6%. Now we're going to go to the ward comparison for 2022 versus 2023 Part 1 crimes. Ward 1 in 2022 had 59, and 2023 had 66, with a total of plus 11.86%. Ward 2 had 162 in 2022, and in 2023 had 249 with a plus 53.7%. Ward 3 had 116 incidents in 2022, and in 2023 it had 94 incidents with a negative 18.96% decrease.
Why don't we, since we got started late for the sake of time, why don't we just focus on the Ward 1 stuff? Because I
Okay,
think that, yeah,
that's fine.
we can just talk about the overall, it's just, the main point is the overall crime in the city increased by about 50% last year, and that's of concern. That's the main thing on this chart. So, yeah, if we can just focus in on,
Ward 1?
yeah, and kind of sum it up, and rather than go into massive detail, we can just,
Gotcha.
because I think they can get the gist of it from the printout.
Yes, sir. Next is going to be, talking about the Ward 1, Part 1 crimes comparison from 2022 versus 2023. Homicide, it was 0. Rape, it was 0 in 2022 and 2023. Robbery in 2022, there was 2. 2023, there was 9, with a plus 350% increase. Assault, it was 1 in 2022. In 2023, it was 5, with a plus 400% increase. Burglary in 2022, it was 14. 2023, it was 8, with a negative 43% decrease. Larceny, it was 19 in 2022. In 2023, it was 11, with a negative 42% decrease. Theft from auto, it was 16 in 2022. In 2023, it was 18, with a plus 13% increase. Auto theft, it was 7 in 2022. In 2023, it was 15, with a plus 114% increase. With a total in 2022 was 59. A total of 2023 was 66, with a plus 12% increase in crime.
I don't know, just for time's sake, I don't know if we need to read every one.
Okay.
Why don't we just, you can give a summation of each kind of chart, and then we can move on, like,
Okay.
just, that Ward 1 increased by 12%, and then you can just look at the crime stats, like for the second one on the bottom of page 4 is just the Ward 1 crime stats by the month. We don't need to read all those, but it just gives you an idea of when the crimes occurred during which part of the month.
Gotcha.
And if you go to page 5, we can go into those, but you don't need to read every one. We can just
Okay.
kind of talk about what the comparison was, what the percentage was for Ward 1 compared to the city, and then go into just summarize briefly some of the other highlights.
Okay. And next one, the Ward 1 crime stats for year 2023, there were 66 total incidents. Go to the next. It's going to be City of Takoma Park, Ward 1, comparison 2023. Yeah, altogether, it's just a 6% of crime compared to the whole entire city. Go to the next one. The next slide is going to be the top 5 repeated hotspot locations in Ward 1 in 2023. 7,000 block of Carroll Avenue Business Center, restaurants, 13 reports. 7,600 block of Fenton Street, Montgomery College Streets, 5 reports. 400 block of Tulip Avenue residential streets with 4 reports. 7,200 block of Carroll Avenue Business Center Auto Service Station, 2 reports. 7,100 block of Holly Avenue residential streets, 2 reports. Next is going to be the top 5 repeated hotspot locations in Ward 1, 2023. The Business Center restaurants, 7,000 block of Carroll Avenue. We had 4 motor vehicle thefts, 3 shopliftings, 2 robberies, 1 carjacking, 2 vandalisms, 1 aggravated assault, 1 drug violation. In the Montgomery College area, streets, 7,600 block of Fitness Street, we had 2 burglaries.
I don't know that we, just for the sake of time, I don't know if we need to read all those individually. I think people can see.
Okay,
see them.
no problem.
And then the chart, you can just refer to it. It's more interactive on the bottom page.
Okay, like if you go to the bottom chart, the Ward 1 incident map, because you can see the color map of where all the crimes that are occurred within the Ward 1 area. To sum up this, in assaults in 2023, there were 88 assaults in 2023. 5 out of these 88 assaults occurred in Ward 1. Approximately 52 out of the 88 assaults incidents in 2023 were domestic related, 59%, with the 59%. Approximately 2 out of the 5 assaults incidents that occurred in Ward 1 were domestically related with 40%. Arrests and property crimes. There were 300 plus arrests made in Takoma Park in 2023. There were 922 Part 1 property crimes that occurred in Takoma Park in 2023. There were 150 arrests made in relation to property crimes that occurred in Takoma Park in 2023. Out of all property crimes in Takoma Park in 2023, at least 16% were cleared by arrests. In Ward 1, there were 52 Part 1 property crimes that occurred in Takoma Park in 2023. There were 7 arrests made in relation to property crimes that occurred in Ward 1 of Takoma Park in 2023, and 18 arrests in Ward 1 with Ward 1 total in 2023. Out of all property crimes in Ward 1 in Takoma Park in 2023, at least 13% were cleared by arrests. And that's the end of the stats.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you all improvising. It's much more entertaining when there's a PowerPoint. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to questions. Just a reminder, Ron Hardy will have a microphone. I've just asked if you have a question, if you just raise your hand, and Ron will come around and give you the mic. Ron, we have one here in the front. Right. Oh, okay. Sorry. You're next. Sorry.
What's the difference between burglary and larceny?
Burglary is someone who breaks into a dwelling place, and larceny is just the theft, the taking of property. Burglary usually you get to break into something. Could be a shed, could be a residence, could be a commercial building, a garage. Theft is just someone who's coming and just taking property without breaking into any location. Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Actually, I have a request for a little bit more information if it's possible.
Sure.
I happen to live just over the Maryland line in Maryland, Takoma Park. And so I'm very close to the intersection where the businesses in DC are.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it comes up a lot. So we work with both Prince George's County, the District of Columbia, and Montgomery County Police, as well as Park Police and other jurisdictions. We have real-time communication with them on our radio, where we can switch over and have real-time communications. But most importantly, our officers know their officers, so they communicate on a daily basis. Our detectives communicate on a daily basis. We had multiple crimes that have occurred in Takoma Park where we've arrested suspects and solved crimes in other jurisdictions. Last year, we had multiple armed robberies of food trucks along New Hampshire Avenue. we made an arrest that led to led to the closure of multiple cases in Montgomery County. So on a daily basis, our officers communicate and work together and share intelligence. Our crime analyst also shares daily intelligence about things that are occurring within Takoma Park with Prince George's County, the District of Columbia, and vice versa. So a lot of times, something that is happening here, someone that commits a crime here commits it over the line in the District of Columbia. So that communication is really robust. We also have communication at the highest level between the chiefs and the commanders and so on and so forth, because that's important as well. We do have full jurisdiction in Prince George's and Montgomery to pursue offenders and so on and so forth, because we're sworn officers in Maryland. We do not have the same in the District of Columbia. So several years ago, we advocated to have a memorandum of understanding with the District of Columbia that would give us concurrent jurisdiction to be able to apprehend and pursue and do police work in the District of Columbia. And that was not so we could go downtown and do police work. That was so if something occurred on the line in real time, we could chase someone across the line and so on and so forth. I hate to say that, but the DC was not receptive to that. And that's not just Takoma Park, that's all of the jurisdictions in Maryland, none of them, either small, large, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, have an MOU with the District of Columbia. Our elected officials at the time advocated for that MOU. I don't know if that's going to happen. That would be a tool for us. If we revisit that, we'll let the residents know to advocate as well. When you talk about what you should do, and I think you know all of the things, locking your doors, being vigilant, so on and so forth. But I think one of the most important things we want is for people to report crime when it occurs and report suspicious activity. We are going to be respectful of people's rights and their dignity when we respond out. So if people are concerned that I don't want to call the police because they may go out and something bad may happen, I can assure you our officers are going to be respectful and treat people with the dignity they deserve. But a lot of times, people won't call us when something is suspicious, and then the next morning they'll read, well, cars were broken into or something, or so on and so forth. The other thing people don't do is call when incidents happen. So if someone might ruffle through your car, but they take some change, and I don't want to bother with it. But a lot of times we deploy our resources based on the number of incidents that occur. So if we don't know that there was a trend of theft from autos on Cedar Avenue or Maple Avenue or wherever, we may not appropriately allocate resources. So I don't know if that answers your question. I think it's beneficial sometimes we have meetings like this, especially when we abut other jurisdictions, to have other jurisdictions here. We're going to try to do that at some future meetings just so they can answer specific questions, because there may be some questions that come up from the District of Columbia that they can answer specifically that we may not be able to answer. But if you have any specific questions for those jurisdictions, we'd be more than happy to pass them on to them. I don't know if that answered your questions, but.
Yes, thank you. Very good to follow up.
It's very related. So like, let's say, for instance, our
It's most helpful to call in real time, so you haven't ruffled through it or driven it to different locations, so we can possibly get fingerprints or so on and so forth. So obviously, the sooner you can call us, the better. I will say this, a lot of times the person that ruffles through your car and takes change is the same person that takes thousands of dollars of tools from the individual that's his livelihood. So, I think that anytime someone's doing that, the more we can know, the better we can allocate resources. So, had a question in the back? Yes, ma'am.
When to call 911, when to call a non-emergency number?
I think that's a really good question. There are two ways in which you can contact the Takoma Park Police Department. That is our direct phone number, which is 301-270-1100. That will get our dispatcher here that's physically in the building. You can call us for anything on that number. There's also 911. If you call 911 in Montgomery County, they're going to take the call and they're going to transfer it to our dispatcher. That is the same way it is across the county. We're kind of handled as a district through Montgomery County. So I usually encourage folks to call us directly if you don't want to have that in between. So if you can, for any incidents, whether it be a theft from auto or a serious ongoing situation, if you call us at our direct line, you're going to get our dispatcher and you're not going to be transferred from 911. That's not to say that you won't be. You will be, but there may be a delay. So, for example, there are a lot of areas, especially Ward 1, that are adjoin different jurisdictions. And it's not as much of a problem if you're calling in Montgomery County, because you're going to get 911 and they're going to look at the address and they're going to send it to us or send it to Montgomery County. Where it becomes a problem is if you're in the District of Columbia line or you're over in Prince George's, you may get routed around. Now, we're working on that, and we've made a lot of improvements in making sure that it's routed to the right jurisdiction. But I would encourage anyone in Takoma Park that can remember the number, 301-270-1100, to call us. If you can't remember the number and it's an emergency, call 911. They'll get us. We'll get there. But if you want to expedite responses and have a dispatcher that's more familiar with the roadways and so on and so forth. So for example, the example you gave at Eastern and Piney Branch, if you called 911, you would get a Montgomery County dispatcher that may not know the geographic area. But if you call our number, you would get our dispatcher who would have a better idea about the geographic area.
Calling 911.
I think you just gave more reason to call our direct line. And I realized, I highly suggest, and I will say it again, if you have your cell phone available, 301-270-1100. 301-270-1100 will get us directly. You wouldn't have that situation. If you called us, you would get our dispatcher. So that information is all over the place. You just gave more reason to call our direct line, as opposed, especially if you are in an area that abuts another jurisdiction. Yes, ma'am. Correct. Yeah, I should have stressed that. And we're talking about police, not. If you need the fire department for an emergency, it's 911. But if you contacted us, we would call the fire department. But you're going back to the same situation we were trying to avoid, where we're having to flip and contact them. So I'm sorry, did someone else have a question? Yes, ma'am. Follow up. Can we just get the mic to you, and then we'll get it back to the gentleman?
I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
I just want to be clear, because I have this.
You contact the District of Columbia, and they pick up and say, this is DC 911, you need a request, I need to be transferred to Montgomery. I am in Montgomery County, Maryland, or I'm in Takoma Park, I need to be transferred. That's what you should request.
Okay, but if I called Takoma right now.
Absolutely. It is our dispatchers. It is the dispatchers that, so it is the dispatchers that would be contacting the officers to respond. So I give you an example. So what happens when a call comes through 911? A call taker takes the call, they transfer it to us, and a dispatcher dispatches it. What would happen here is we would take the call here and then dispatch it. Same process, just the call would be screened in Rockville and sent to us, if that makes any sense. But if you call us and you have an emergency, our officers are going to respond. Absolutely.
I have multiple questions, and I'll try to be concise.
And for the sake of, so I'm not the only one talking, I'll defer to the deputy chief.
So, sure. So each home, each situation is a little bit different, so it will be different for your residents. But primarily, locking your doors is very important if you're talking about a residence. And having lighting is very important. A lot of people put in motion lights, which are very effective as well, especially, if somebody who's not supposed to be on the property comes onto the property. The lights come on, it might alert you to look out the window, et cetera. For vehicles, it's very important to take out all valuables out of your car and lock your doors. I hope that answered your questions. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can also call a department and ask one of the officers to do a survey of your house to give you specific action plans that you can take to protect your residents.
So my part two of my question, it's hard to really pronounce.
A really good question, and it goes back to what I talked about earlier about reporting crimes. So with the increase of crime in 2022, we use all of those crime stats through our crime analysts to deploy multiple high enforcement details, plain clothes, and uniform high visibility to areas where the crime was occurring the most. So to be candid, you may not have seen them as much in Ward 1 because Ward 1 was a very small percentage. The majority of our details were focused on Ward 6 and areas of the city that had a high volume. But, for example, at one point during 2022, we had a high volume of thefts in a certain area of Ward 1. Therefore, not only do we have those targeted details, but we also alert all of our officers, what's called a directed patrol. So they know that between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., we've had, multiple vehicle break-ins in a certain area. So they will patrol that area. We also have technology as a force multiplier. We have a camera trailer that we can deploy through various areas of the city. One is currently deployed, I think, over in Ward 3, and the other one is a partnership with the Takoma Langley Development, Crossroads Development Association, is now deployed in Ward 6. It is really important that we know the numbers and analyze the numbers. So we don't just patrol randomly. We patrol based on where the problems are. So we're doing everything we can with high visibility. We also have a special assignment team, which is our plainclothes team, which you may not see. We have been very successful in making arrests for some really, really serious crimes, and for some crimes that individuals involved in multiple crimes. I think I mentioned earlier, there was one individual a couple years ago that was involved in a home invasion robbery and also some burglaries. And one occurred in Ward 1 and also some in the District of Columbia that we were able to make an arrest and get a conviction on. So I think it's really important that you continue to provide that information to us as far as crime stats.
And kind of my last kind of question is the stats are nice to see 2022 versus 2023.
Low numbers of crime in, I think it was 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. So if you're looking at where we are right now, just let me backtrack. We do annual crime stats for as long as I can remember. And we have all those stored. All of them are on our website, so anybody can go back and look historically at what the what the crimes were occurring in 2009, 2008. So where we are now is kind of back to where we were pre-really low crime numbers. We're a little bit above that, so that's concerning. But we always look historically at trends and analyze kind of what happened before and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, those numbers are readily available on our website as well. We have one more in the room, and then we'll transition to online. Oh, two more in the room, and then we'll transition to online.
Chief, I have a question. I have two appreciations. My partner and I reported.
He didn't even recognize that one when he.
I'll remind
Appreciate that. There's nothing more concerning than having someone invade your house in that manner. So I'm glad that we were at least able to provide some comfort after that happened.
Detective Butler, could you tell?
For your first question in reference to the vehicles, the most common denominator is if there's unlocked or if there's property within the vehicle. I don't have the data in reference to the makes or models, but most times it's just if the car is unlocked compared to locked, and if there's any property in the vehicle. Basically, just like if there's any property in the vehicle. The second question you had is about the.
We seem to have fewer burglaries.
Well, I don't have the stats on that either, but I know for a fact there's 99% of burglaries that I've investigated in the past 18 years, most of them have no security system.
And if I can just touch on what he was talking about, the auto thefts. Auto thefts range in all makes and models, but in the most recent years, we had a large amount of thefts of autos dealing with Hyundai vehicles, Hyundai Elantras and Kias. And that was based on a TikTok trend that showed juveniles, essentially, showed anybody how to enter a vehicle and jump start it or start it and steal it. So to answer your question, we had a lot of Hyundais and Kias that were being stolen, not just in the city of Takoma Park, but regionally and nationally. It was a trend. But other hot cars there's been a lot of Japanese makes. Honda Accords and Toyotas have been high on the list of stolen autos. So I'll answer the jurisdiction part of it first. In all the parks in Montgomery County that are owned by Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, they're the primary reporting agency. We can respond to that park or that location. We can, but their officers are the ones who are able to take the actual report. We can't take any reporting action. We can stop a crime, we can place somebody in handcuffs, but the park police would have to come and we'd have to transfer that arrestee to the park police. So if there is an incident that you see that's active, you can contact us. You can contact Takoma Park, and we will send an officer, but our dispatchers will contact park police and say, hey, please send an officer to the location for, whatever the call is.
We'll go to one more in the room, and then, we just have one gentleman that hasn't asked a question yet. Can I go to him?
I have 3 questions. One, does a car...
I think any vehicle that has a visual alarm system is going to be less likely to be broken into. I don't know that a red light indicating that will help, but what a person committing a crime is looking for is an easy opportunity. And if the car next to yours does not have an alarm system, but you have a visible alarm system, they're much more likely to break into the car without the alarm system.
No, I put one in when my car...
I mean, that's a really good question. So as far as the certain scooters, I believe it's under 16, you're supposed to have a helmet, but as far as people that, so most of the time, the kids that are getting them from the Silver Spring Metro when they're coming back and they're riding to Takoma Park, the vast majority are not wearing helmets. And I'll be candid, it's not something that we're aggressively enforcing. It's just the perception could be worse if we're quote unquote profiling or stopping people just for not having a helmet. But I'm not 100% sure, I'm not if anybody does about the specific laws regarding the scooters and the age for the helmets, but I know that under a certain age, you actually absolutely have to have a helmet on. I think that's a good question, and I think we don't ever want to live with or be okay with increased crime. For background, crime has increased not just in Takoma Park, but in the region, and anyone that watches the news for downtown Silver Spring knows that violent crime is very prevalent in downtown Silver Spring. But I think that I can tell you here in the city of Takoma Park, we get support from our elected officials. They are just as invested in making sure that we have the tools that we need, whether or not that be vehicles, whether or not be camera trailers, what have you. So the support is there. I just think and I say this all the time, it is not about what we're doing right now. That's part of it. But until we start taking a holistic approach on what is causing the underlying causes of criminal activity, we're just going to be spinning wheels. We need to address the lack of education, the lack of employment, the lack of nutrition, all of these things that are leading factors to people committing crime. So, long term, those are the solutions to correct the crime problem. Short term is some of the things that we're talking about today. But if that's all we do, we're going to continue the cycle. Nothing is going to change. Now, it may fluctuate. Crime stats may go down here, may go up this year. But until we take that holistic approach, we're going to be spinning our wheels. So I think we have one more in the room, and then we'll go to some online. No? No, sir? Okay. Kathy, do you want to read any of the ones online?
I think we have 3, and I forgot my glasses, so bear with me. We live on Eastern near the metro station. Our front yard is DC line. Our concern is with crime around our house, which also includes the metro station. Why does the department not take into account the increased crime in that area?
We absolutely do. I mean, it's anytime that the crime is prevalent, like I say, it's our crime analyst is analyzing it, and our officers are patrolling. Fully aware, we had a overtime detail in our Old Town Business District that went all the way down to the metro station, specifically focused during the time of year over the holidays when we saw a lot more incidents of car break-ins, robberies, et cetera. So we're aware of the trends, and we absolutely are making an emphasis. If there's any particular area that any resident feels like I'm seeing problems that the police department may not be aware of, you can always call our dispatch or one of our patrol commanders and say, hey, look, you may not know this, but I'm seeing an increase in suspicious activity. I'm seeing this, and we will have officers respond out. We do that on a routine basis. Our dispatchers will send out an email and say, I received an email from a resident on Eastern Avenue advising that they've seen increased activity, suspicious activity, and we'll deploy officers accordingly. That's the luxury of having a smaller police department, is we're not as call-to-call driven, and we can be proactive in trying to address some of these issues.
The decrease in Ward 1,
if I recall, had a large increase in crime the prior year, and I think that was a factor in the reduction this year. That was if I recall correctly, was the ward that had the biggest increase in 2022, and we can go back and confirm that. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I will be candid, we put a lot of resources into Ward 3. Ward 3 was an area where we saw, I don't know if anyone's aware, 4th Avenue and Eastern Avenue, we had multiple shots fired incidents. One incident where a bullet went through a window, went through a cereal box and was lodged in a pillow of a young girl's bedroom. So I think it had to do with the increase in 2022 compared to the rest of the city, or 2021 compared to 2022, and our efforts in just aggressively combating crime, whether or not it was the section of Ward 3 along New Hampshire Avenue where we had the filling stations and so on and so forth. So I think it's a combination of all of those factors. No more? All right, do we have any more in the room?
Thank you.
I want to just do a shout out to Kathy for all the good.
I appreciate that. Kathy is really robust. For those of you who aren't aware, we put out daily updates, and she also puts out a weekly breakdown of all the crimes broken down by ward throughout the city. You can go back and see it. So we're glad to have her, truly.
I was going to say, Elizabeth gave me another idea now to put out a info thing on 911.
On that note, I remember there was a
I actually do put that out to the community, just so you know, to make sure your address house line is visible, and that move everything away from it, paint it really bright, if it's on the curb, if it's on your house. I'll put it out soon. Stop giving me ideas too. But I'm going to re-put it out again, because it is important. It's really important for the fire department, for the ambulance, for the cops, for everybody.
Yeah, but
All right, do we have any other questions in the audience?
Online.
Two online? Okay, we'll transition to the
Just one online.
Oh, one online. Okay, go ahead.
Carjackings have increased in the region. This is a frightening situation. What can we do to help reduce these crimes?
Talked about earlier, it's just making sure that you, that when you're parked at a gas station, that you lock your car, you don't leave your keys in your car, you're vigilant when you're pumping gas. The same thing with don't go out and not be aware of your surroundings when you're getting into your car. If something looks suspicious, don't get into your car. There's multiple ways, but I think just being aware of your surroundings and understanding certain circumstances. I would never tell my wife to pump gas on New Hampshire Avenue at 10 o'clock at night by herself. I mean, just common sense approach to when you may refill your tank, where you may park, when you lock your car, if you leave valuables in your car, so on and so forth. I do want to stress one thing, though. Your life is not worth your property. So if someone goes to take your car or anything else, just give it up and be a good witness. Do not ever try to attempt to fight or resist. Just give them your vehicle. Insurance will pay for it, but your life is not worth a vehicle or property. Any other questions? I appreciate it. I apologize for the technical issues. So what we're going to do with this PowerPoint is we're going to put it out with this recording online. So anyone that wants to go back and look at the PowerPoint as far as the stats are able to do that. If anyone has any questions that we did not answer tonight, feel free to reach out to Ms. Plevy, and she will make sure that the questioning either gets to me or the appropriate staff person to answer. It is for a ward that has 6% of the crime, as perception is, and every crime of those 6% has a victim. And I appreciate your partnership because we need you all to be able to do our jobs. And I appreciate you all coming out. I realize this is I think it's Tuesday night, so thank you very much. And if we don't have anything else, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate it.